Not even a full month into the year yet. 10 people dead, 10 other people in the hospital.
We saw Sandra Endo getting ready there. Sandra, we want to go back to you with the warning that when this press conference starts, we may have to interrupt you. But tell us what you're seeing there.
Absolutely, Alex and Brooks, I can tell you that more and more people are waking up to the news here in this community, coming out to the scene to see what exactly happened, and obviously devastated by this. Their sense of security shaken to the core because
Good
of the
morning.
tell me things like this never happen here in this community, and clearly they are just devastated by the loss of life and the tragedy that has struck so close to home, especially on Lunar New Year. This was a time, the first time this community has come together post-COVID to really celebrate in this way, for everyone to come together with a parade, with vendors out on the street for this 2-day Lunar New Year celebration. And people have come out here, residents, saying they just took their 9-month-old newborn baby out to the parade for the first time to celebrate. They were home before dark, so clearly didn't see the shooting, didn't hear about it.
Good morning, guys. Apparently, overnight in Monterey Park, California, which is just east of LA, if I'm not mistaken, uh, some kind of a mass shooting. This is all kind of being connected to the Lunar New Year, uh, the Chinese Lunar New Year. And when I tuned in last night, they said there were 10 to 19 dead. And as the night filtered through, it ended up being there were 10 actual deceased victims, and there were 10 to 16 that were wounded, shot, but they were survived. And then the shooter seemed like he got away. Nobody knows anything about him. We assume it's a him. And then they're about to have a press conference. That's why I'm going to stream this to see what they have to say about it. And it turns out it was at a dance hall or dance recital or something like that. Not necessarily connected to the Lunar New Year. And it was just a lot of sketchy details. Last night, when I was watching this, as it happened, right after it happened, we were listening to the police scanner, and they were saying how there were victims outside in the parking lot, there were victims inside in the facility, and apparently there were like victims everywhere. And they were trying to figure out how many ambulances they needed, where they're going to transport, did they not have to transport, and so hopefully we'll find out. We'll get some more details as soon as the press conference was supposed to happen 30 minutes ago. So I'm assuming they're trying to get their ducks in a row and see what happens. So I'll leave this here for a little bit.
Which is largely predominantly Asian American, and we're also talking about the other scene in Alhambra. Again, a very large Asian American community there, all waking up this Lunar New Year to the devastating news that this happened. But again, we are hearing helicopters circling overhead still. That means, of course, the investigation continues to get underway by foot, on ground, and above us as well in the air. There's a lot of work to do in terms of piecing together what exactly happened at both of these locations, the timeline of everything, who the suspect was, the weapons used, and of course, why. The motive being so important here as families all across the Southland and the nation wake up to celebrate Lunar New Year, wondering if their safety is in jeopardy. Hearing from local officials in other communities that they're going to heighten their presence of security and to make sure that the community remains safe. So until we hear official word from local officials that perhaps this was an isolated incident, hopefully, or a bigger picture, we don't know at this point. But certainly something the community is listening for and is waiting for. A sense of security definitely needed here in the Asian American community in particular on this very important holiday, this Lunar New Year, ushering in the year of the rabbit. But you see, again, this is a joint investigation, multiple levels of law enforcement here, layers of investigators. You have homicide detectives here, FBI, Monterey police, as well as the sheriff's department overseeing this investigation. So you have multiple levels and jurisdictions involved in this tragedy, this mass shooting where 10 people are dead this morning because of this, as well as at least 10 people in hospital today. So a lot of answers that we're waiting for. Again, any moment now. For now, let's
Here
send
we
it
go.
back to you.
So now we see the slew of law enforcement, including several elected officials that weren't on that list, as I suspected. Judy Chu, the congresswoman, Supervisor Hilda Solis. They may have been waiting for some of these folks to get there. But the sheriff, Robert Luna, I think, is going to take the lead on this. Let's listen in to this briefing. Hope to get a lot more information.
Good morning. My name is Lorena Rodriguez. I'm captain at the Sheriff's Information Bureau. The order of speakers today will be Los Angeles County Sheriff Robert Luna, Monterey Park Police Chief Scott Weiss, Monterey Park Mayor Henry Lowe, representing the 1st District Supervisor Hilda Solis, Congressmember Judy Chu, and FBI Assistant Director Don Elway. At the end, we will be available for questions. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, thank you for your patience. I know it took us a little bit to get out here, but we're doing a lot of very important work behind the scenes. It gives me a great sadness to be standing before you to report such devastating news. Never easy to do something like this because it's absolutely heartbreaking. And our thoughts, condolences, and prayers go out not only to the victims, their family, but this Monterey Park community and really the entire community, because I think we're all going to be hurting based on this tragedy. On Saturday, January 21st, 2023, at approximately 10:22 p.m., officers from the Monterey Park Police Department responded to a business in the 100 block of West Garvey Avenue in the city of Monterey Park regarding a shots fired call. When officers arrived at the location, they observed numerous victims and patrons in the business parking lot. Additional officers made entry into the business and located numerous gunshot victims. Monterey Park Fire Department responded to the scene and started to treat the injured. And I do want to point out, these police officers that get there, they don't hesitate. They go in right away. And then our partners at the fire department, and not only the Monterey Park Fire Department, but many others who came to assist the victims, survivors who needed assistance. There were at least 10 additional victims transported to numerous local hospitals. But I do want to start off with saying that unfortunately, when the fire department did get into the business, they did pronounce 10 of the victims deceased at the scene that I just described. But the 10 additional victims were transported to numerous local hospitals. They are listed in various conditions from stable to critical condition. There is a male suspect that fled the scene and remains outstanding as of this moment. Our very preliminary description has been described as a male Asian, and that's from the scene here in Monterey Park. And it's taken us a while, and please be patient with us, because as we're interviewing victims and witnesses, we've gotten different descriptions of one suspect. So when I say it's preliminary, please, again, be patient with us. We are here to tell you that we are utilizing every resource to apprehend this suspect. in what we believe to be one of the county's most heinous cases. Our local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies are working together to better serve the residents here of Los Angeles County and to apprehend this attacker. Sheriff's homicide investigators are working diligently with the Monterey Park Police Department, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, and numerous other law enforcement agencies. Bottom line is here, we're going to use every resource available to us because we need to get this person off the street as soon as possible. But again, we are still in the very early stages of this investigation, and there actually is a lot more that we don't know than what we know at this time. As I said earlier, the men and women of the Sheriff's Department join me in extending our condolences to the countless families affected by this senseless shooting, and they will remain constantly on the minds of our investigators, who I see it in their eyes. They want to get this guy, and they're going to. So I also want you to know questions that are being asked. Is this related to the other event here in the city of Monterey Park, or any concerns about any other Chinese New Year events? We are working here. You see all the partners behind me, including the FBI. We've been doing threat assessments throughout the morning. Are they connected? Honestly, we don't know the answer to that yet. It may or may not be. So as we look at other events, we will make sure that we step up our presence from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. We will be in communication with other law enforcement agencies. We already have been, to make sure that security is a top priority at any event. And that's not to indicate that we think there's a threat there. We're just taking every precaution that we can. We don't want anybody else to get hurt. As a matter of fact, I'll be attending another Chinese New Year's event later on in a couple of hours. And I encourage people to go out and enjoy the events. It's a time from that perspective to celebrate, although this is a very sad occasion. So I now want to introduce to you my partner, the Chief of Police of the Monterey Park Police Department, Chief Scott Weiss.
I don't know if I would have said that. Like, yeah, go out and celebrate, although this is a very somber event. I probably would have left that out.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Scott Weiss. I'm the police chief for the city of Monterey Park. As the sheriff explained to you, my officers responded last night to this call. We've been working with our county, state, and federal partners to help in this investigation. It's a large investigation that will go on for many days and perhaps many months. My concern now is the safety of the city of Monterey Park. My officers are on duty. I brought in extra officers from home to make sure that the community is safe.
Right.
We will continue to patrol this community and respond to anything that happens here. We're going to remain very diligent, and we hope the community becomes closer partners with us in this and is able to share.
And it's not just that he shouldn't have said that, but I would think, like, well, aren't you supposed to be working on this case instead of going out to a celebration? You would think, yeah, celebrations are off the table right now. Let's focus on finding out what the hell happened. Just saying. Just saying.
And all of us at the department, all of my officers that responded, all of my professional staff are very serious about catching this suspect and bringing him to justice. And that's our number one goal here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Weiss. And I want to first thank Sheriff Luna, the FBI, the State Emergency Services, and all of the law enforcement agencies who have been working with us for the past few hours in investigating this very tragic event. It's difficult to believe that it happened here in Monterey Park. We want to express our condolences to the victims and their families. And moving forward, it is important that we be there for them to provide services and support they need in what will be a time of healing in next week's months, if not years. We also want to just thank everyone who has given their support for Monterey Park. Again, we are a small community in the San Gabriel Valley, but we're part of the larger Southern California region family, and it's been very comforting to see the support, the upward support that's been here for our community and our families. And again, thank you so much to our own police department, who every day protects this community. And
Okay.
a diverse community, a very diverse community. You know, yesterday,
I have a problem with these press conferences where it's right on the eve of what just happened, on the after hours of a massacre. It's like, I don't want to hear all this stuff about, oh, everybody's working, thank you, and thank you, and thank you. Like, just, no, talk about the facts. What do we know? What do you know? What can you share?
I'm sorry. My name is Henry Lowe. I am the mayor for the city of Monterey Park. Thank you.
At least that's what I think.
Henry, last name spelled Lo.
Everybody's patting each other on the back already, and it's like, come on, really? Don't get ahead of yourself.
Supervisor Hilda Solis, representing the 1st District. First of all, I'm devastated. My heart is broken to hear that just after a very beautiful event that many of us here attended yesterday, to hear about the loss of 10 lives, mass shooting that occurred here in Monterey Park, our very own community, as well as those 10 individuals that are injured. First of all, I want to commend the police department here in Monterey Park, the city of Monterey Park, for being so diligent, as well as our sheriff, our new sheriff, Luna, who's done already an outstanding job. But I also want to thank the community itself, because we continue to be resilient. This is unfortunate happening here on the day that we celebrate. It's a holiday that is so well respected and celebrated by so many in the AAPI community. And just yesterday, to see hundreds of thousands of people on the street on Garvey, to know that people could come out after the pandemic to celebrate, to see family, to see children, to see our elderly, to know that this was a place of welcoming. People would come here for many, many years knowing that this was a place of acceptance, of diversity, of immigrants. And it's unfortunate what occurred. We're praying for those that lost their lives and their families, and for those that are currently in our care and that are injured. I know that at least 4 of those individuals are at our LAC USC Medical Trauma Hospital. And I want to thank the medical staff that has been there up all night, providing the services and helping those to heal. We have much more prayers to provide for our community. As you know, hate crime is nothing new for some in our community, especially the AAPI community. And that's why almost 3 years ago, the County Board of Supervisors took action right on the cusp of COVID, when we saw assaults against people of Asian descent. So we know this is a problem and we have to confront it. But I hope today that we remain united, and that when we see something, we say something. And as the sheriff said, we know that this is a day of a solemn moment, but we also know that the Lunar New Year means so much to our AAPI communities. And this is a time of reflection and prayer. So I know I will do whatever I can in my capacity, working with all of our partners here to see how we can heal, but also come up with some plans and see how we can better serve our community so that we can stop this hate that somehow has taken a hold over our communities. So I pray for those families, and I know that this community is resilient. It has been.
It looks like the hate is
fierce, and they are our community
within their community. So something's going on.
With that, Congresswoman Judy Chu.
And I keep thinking, all I keep thinking is about
Hello, I'm Congressmember Judy
is
Chu,
Chinese gang, the Chinese mafia.
My thoughts and condolences go to the victims.
Because I do have a favorite movie I've watched because of this. I mean, not because of this.
The terror
having to do with the Chinese mafia and the Chinese gangs.
They feel, and how devastated the families of those who were killed must feel right now.
You think if it was personal to one person or jealousy or something like that,
my thanks go
they might go after just one, right? Hit their target and
paramedics and
it's
firefighters
personal.
who
But
were able to take care of
to shoot so many,
the sheriffs, Sheriff Luna, as well as Monterey Park Police Chief
all age
Weiss, and
of all ages, because that guy was a very
FBI
senior
coming immediately
individual
as
that they just
anyone
put in that
who has
ambulance
been
in that video.
advised of this horrific shooting. And I hope that we can make a determination as to whether this was a hate crime. You know, this could have been so much worse. Only hours earlier, all of us were together, only 1 block away at the Lunar New Year festival. All of us standing right here were there, and there were thousands there. It is horrible that such a thing could occur at a time of celebration for so many in the AAPI community and in the Asian community worldwide. This is a time to be with family, to celebrate, and yet this tore a hole through all of our hearts. But let me say, I've lived in this city for 37 years. I was on the city council and I was its mayor. And I know how strong Monterey Park is. Monterey Park is resilient. And what I know about the people here is that we will get through this together.
Good morning. I'm Don Alway, the Assistant Director of the FBI's Los Angeles Field Office. And on behalf of the entire FBI, our hearts go out to the victims and their families, those that are not going to have their loved ones come home to greet them. The FBI is committed to providing all the resources at our disposal to assist the Sheriff's Department and the Monterey Park Police Department. And we won't stop until every lead is exhausted and justice prevails. Thank you.
That's correct.
Okay, and then I just need to clarify something because Supervisor Solis just implied that this was, these hate crimes have to stop. So is this or is this not a hate crime?
Everything's on the table. We don't know if this is specifically a hate crime defined by law, but who walks into a dance hall and guns down 20 people? The description we have now is of a male Asian. Does that matter? I don't know. I can tell you that everything's on the table. Our detectives are looking at every possibility with our partners. Age range, somewhere between the age of 30 and 50. There is a wide range. And those are things that our detectives, as we're sitting here now for the last several hours, and we have several.
I know one thing that's hard to do is try to guess someone's age who's Asian, because they tend to look young, and even the elders can look very young. So it's not easy to just guess their age.
The actual scene, I have not. I've been at the crime scene, but not the actual shooting scene.
The question I have is then based on the scene, I don't know if you or Captain Meyer can answer this. Based on the locations of the bodies, does it look like there was an intentional direction that the shooter was aimed at, or does it look like it was random across the board?
Those are questions that we will be able to answer, just not at this time.
Weapons, yes, ammunition and weapons used, potentially any description of that. And can you please also describe what other incidents you are trying to investigate as far as their possible connection to this?
Yes. So let me start off with the last question regarding the city of Alhambra. We are working diligently with the Alhambra Police Department. We believe that there's an incident that may be related. We're not quite there yet, but it's definitely on our radar screen where a male Asian suspect walked into a dance hall, and he walked in there with a firearm, and some individuals wrestled the firearm away from him, and that individual took off. Now, some witnesses in that area are describing a white cargo van. We don't know, though, at this time, if it is connected. That white van should be considered a van of interest at this point. Again, detectives looking at multiple locations, multiple clues, and I know how hard they're working. In regards to the firearm, obviously, there were multiple rounds fired at the first location where we have all the victims and survivors. We don't know how many rounds were fired. Different weapons have been described. In regards to the specific weapon, we don't believe it was an assault rifle at this time, but again, that's part of the investigation.
See, that's something you're not supposed to talk about just yet.
Bad information.
Without giving us things that you cannot tell us, do you have things solid base right now which are possibly connecting you to this gunman right now? I know you cannot give us details of it.
Could not hear that question.
I always have hope, and we have amazing detectives out here. The resources that they have are utilizing out here. There are multiple leads that we are following, but please keep in mind our priority here is obviously we get to the victims, we get to the survivors. We're going to wrap our arms around the families.
Correct, guys. That's Monterey Park, California, not Monterey, California. Monterey Park.
And get them prosecuted to the full extent of the law, no matter what the intent, motive, or anything was. So, that's always a possibility. Again, very early on in this investigation, that's a possibility. When you're a good detective, you don't take anything off the table. Everything's a possibility, and that could be one of them. We are still in the process of interviewing dozens of witnesses, and I'm not going to get into detail yet about what they said. Look at how many cameras are in front of me. Suspect could be watching right now.
Sheriff, the Alhambra incident, is there a weapon that he was disarmed? Do you have a weapon from that incident?
We do.
Can you tell us what it is?
Not at this time.
Do you think that that could be your weapon from the crime here?
It absolutely could be. We don't know yet.
Can you describe the victims as far as their age range, gender, race, anything you can tell us?
In regards to the 10 deceased victims, my understanding, we have 5 females and 5 males. In regards to their specific ages, we have not been able to identify any of them yet. We will do that with our partners at the coroner's office when the time comes.
Okay, what time did the Alhambra incident happen? Sheriff, what time did the Alhambra incident happen?
I want to say it happened within 20 to 30 minutes of the first incident that we're here discussing. It happened after the Monterey Park incident.
How many people were inside the Monterey Park?
I don't have that information, but there were dozens of people in there.
Why no shelter in place order for the community?
We don't believe that's necessary at this time, but we will consistently evaluate that. And if we believe that there's an absolute danger to the public, we're going to take every precaution necessary. We have a lot of resources out all over the place. And I don't think we're there yet, but it's always an option in the toolbox.
All the victims, as far as you know, of age and descent, people who were killed, people who were wounded?
We don't have that specific information yet because we have not identified them yet. But the assumption is that probably yes, but
Any children among the dead or injured?
no.
The only thing about the event, was it advertised? Was it like, was there music audible on the street? Like, do you know anything about how someone would have?
I don't have that specific information, but we'll put that out later.
Sheriff, safe to say that your teams are scouring video right now to get him running away.
our teams are doing a lot of things right now. That's one of many.
Sheriff, can you talk about the time frame here? When the call came in, how long it took for officers to get to the scene, when they went in, and how much time did this guy have to exit the area?
Chief Weiss, if you want to talk about the initial response to the scene.
They're asking stuff like basic things. What time did it happen?
911 call starting at 10:22.
How long did it take police to get there?
The incident, as you all know, is very close to the police station. We were just wrapping up the final shutdown of the Lunar New Year event. I had dozens of officers here throughout the day and the evening at the Lunar New Year event. So our response to the scene was within minutes. I don't have the exact time. The initial officers that responded saw dozens of people exiting. Some were injured, some weren't. And we handled them as they came out, began to triage that. And my officers put together a react team and went inside to see if the suspect was still inside. They were probably entering that business within a minute or two of responding. And that's how we've been trained, and that's how we respond to situations like this. And I want to address the shelter in place. We have a very tight community here. They share information with us, and our partnership with our community is very, very strong. We've put out information to them about their safety, and we welcome their questions to us. I have dozens of officers here on the street today, not just from my agency, from agencies all over, both local, county, state, and federal. This is a safe community right now, but we're going to continue to be vigilant until we take this suspect into custody, wherever they are.
Chief, can you speak to the possibility of this being a result of a domestic dispute between a husband and wife?
That's all part of the investigation. Everything's on the table. And yeah, the more people you talk to, the more information we get, and our detectives are amazing, and we'll get there.
Just to understand the time frame between the Monterey Park incident and the Alhambra incident. What time was the incident in Alhambra, to get a better idea? This was 10:22 in Monterey Park. That lasted a little while. You said it was about 20 minutes to get to Alhambra. What time was that one?
So if we're looking at the Alhambra incident, approximately 10:22, and from the information preliminarily that we have now, we're talking about between 17 minutes to 20 minutes later, the Alhambra incident occurs.
So Monterey Park was first, Alhambra was second.
Yes, Monterey Park unfortunately occurred first.
Thank you.
Apart from the Alhambra and Monterey Park incident?
In Monterey Park, I understand that there was also a restaurant where a shooting may have occurred. Can you clarify the name of the business that it happened?
Yeah, I don't have information about that at this time. Maybe that's just some new detail that's coming up, whether it's out there. We'll clarify that. I don't have.
The business is to the microphone, please.
Well, yeah, can we pause on that, on the name of the business, just out of respect for the business owners and the victims and survivors? And then we'll work on you as soon as we can get that out. And I heard the question over here to my right about caliber. That's still, we're still looking at that. And I would prefer not to put the caliber out at this second, just because it may hinder what we're trying to do. And again, remember, our priority is we got to get this guy in custody. And that's exactly what we plan to do. Not in detail at this time, other than what I described earlier, that this suspect walked in armed and he was disarmed by a couple of individuals. So that's. You are telling people that it is safe and training people that's in this area. Yes. Yes. And if that changes for any reason, we will immediely notify our community through all of you.
At this point, can you say anything about the weapon that was found at Alhambra? Was that a long rifle? Was that an AR? What was that?
It was not an assault rifle. Thank you.
Sheriff, I was in the events yesterday. There was thousands of people. I wonder if there's any safety measures in place before that happened. And, you know, like the screening of the weapon, what were we doing before that happened?
Are you speaking about the Lunar New Year event?
Yes.
Were you there yesterday?
Yes, it's thousands of people there.
Thousands of people, and I had dozens of officers present.
Yes.
I had officers walking around in plain clothes. I had officers in uniform. I had tactical officers walking around with long guns. I had drones overhead. I had the perimeter locked down with barriers. We did not screen people for weapons. There was probably over 100,000 people present. So it's impossible to screen everybody for weapons. Yesterday was a safe event, primarily because of the diligence of my officers that were present there. I can't speak about the event where the crime occurred. It's a separate incident. It has no relation to the Chinese New Year event earlier in the day.
We'll do a next update in a couple hours, hopefully. Hopefully, yes, same location. Thank you very much.
So there you have it, that press briefing that we had been waiting hours for. And we all were kind of hoping for a little bit more information than what we just got in terms of what we learned.
Yep.
We learned that this was an Asian male. They believe was an Asian male, the suspect.
Based on some witness interviews.
Yeah.
It seemed kind of shaky, the response on that too, very clearly that they're not giving as much information if they have it or they do not have it about this suspect.
They said 5 female victims, 5 male victims inside. That we learned that the incident in Monterey Park happened first. The incident in Alhambra happened about 20 minutes later. Let's check in with our reporters on both of those scenes right now to get their big takeaways from the press conference. Let's start with Sandra Endo, who is in Monterey Park. Sandra.
So it seems like it's not a hate crime because they say the perp is Asian at an Asian event, unless he's a different nationality or something, and there's a issue between the races. But not throwing that in there, maybe it's not a hate crime.
Right now,
Maybe it's more of a love triangle or crime or whatever.
did not rule out it being a hate crime. They did not rule out or rule in anything else. So that is the big takeaway here for the Asian American community in particular, celebrating Lunar New Year. They do say to go celebrate and just keep in mind that there will be added security to many of these events taking place across the Southland. So again, it's supposed to be a very celebratory day today on this Lunar New Year holiday. But as far as this event, they have not ruled out it's a hate crime. They have not ruled out any motive in terms of their investigation so far.
Sandra Endo, thank you. Now to Mario Ramirez. And what we
I wonder if Facebook blocked the broadcast, maybe.
Your takeaway from what we just heard.
Yeah, well, we were able to hear them say that the incident here at this second location, the Lai Ballroom and Dance Studio, it happened about 20 to 30 minutes after that initial incident. And this location here, it's about 2 to 3 miles away from that Monterey Park shooting, less than a 10-minute drive. And we heard during that news conference that there was an incident here that may be related, where a male suspect, male Asian, walked in with a firearm before some of the patrons wrestled a weapon from that suspect, who then fled the scene. And they also mentioned a white cargo van. They don't know if it's connected, but it is a vehicle of interest that was seen here at this location in Alhambra, where they also said dozens of people were in attendance. So the priority is to arrest the person who did this, and they are still in the process of interviewing dozens of witnesses. So this is obviously a big part of the investigation. There are several surveillance cameras near the business. And again, we understand that this incident, whatever unfolded here, that suspect walking in with a firearm, being disarmed reportedly by several patrons inside, then taking off, and that white cargo van also in question here from this scene. So not too far from where Sandra was, again, about 2 to 3 miles away, where that investigation, of course, will continue, as they mentioned, for days and months to come.
All right, Mario, thank you.
All right,
Sheriff Robert,
I'm going to leave this.
of the weapon involved, only
We just come back to this later, see if there's any other updates. I was hoping for a better press conference.
New Year, you know, in a vibrant
You know, like I said, I'm not a fan of right after a tragedy happens, everybody, a group comes out and everybody says, we're strong and we're, you know, thank you this, thank you to them. And everybody's doing an awesome job. It's like, don't be patting yourselves on the back right now. Just tell us what happened. What are the facts you can tell us? What can you share? And it seems everything is more of a positive public relations opportunity.
Looks like Judy Chu standing by there.
Let's see.
Right, the Congresswoman standing right next to me here. She was one of a number of people who spoke at this press conference. Everyone from the sheriff to the.
Oh, that stopped. That's not me. That's them. All right, we'll leave it at that for now. Any further updates or whatever, I'll come back with that later on. All right, have a good Sunday, everyone.